Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, where we discuss complex supernatural metaphysical subjects as always. And tonight I actually want to highlight yet another class from our private patron discussion group because we are once again tackling some pretty wild issues. This time, once again, going over some of the sort of unusual claims that author and out-of-body expert, former Monroe Institute explorer, Tom Campbell, has put out there once again. And this is a little bit of a follow-up to a couple of videos back where we were discussing whether or not out-of-body experience elements are somehow all in our minds, which I think we had a pretty good discussion about that. I think we kind of debunked that premise a little bit. So once again, we have some more things that are being postulated by Tom Campbell that I think are worth addressing. Because once again, I agree with a lot of stuff that Tom Campbell says as somebody who practices astral projection, practices out-of-body experiences. I really like his data analogies and how many incarnations could exist as a data stream, and going out of body is ultimately a matter of connecting to the correct data stream. I'll talk more about that in this video. I think these are really cool concepts. But we start going into territories about single-player simulation experiences, which is how he views most OBEs, which I can personally say is incorrect based upon objective OBEs I've had with objective real people. There's kind of this fixation on things being illusions, things not being real, our loved ones we meet being like facsimiles. I think this, once again, I think an overarching point, and I think I'll bring this up as well in this video, is that a lot of this is Tom's perspective. I think it's related to him having kind of illusionary experiences, whereas, for instance, I don't. Certain lucid dreams, for instance, can have that feeling that like the people you meet are limited because they're kind of thought-born creations from your own mind, as compared to like a legitimate after-death contact experience, like through an OBE. And I think maybe, just going through his perspective, we're getting a lot of information kind of wrong. I've also highlighted a response by Tom's friend Jürgen Ziva, who also made a response kind of to the previous points. I'm going to highlight that in this video. I think that's going to be really cool to check out. He made a really pithy response to the concept that the out-of-body experience elements are subjective or in our minds, and that it's not connected to a greater reality. So in addition to that, though, in this class, remember this is our VIP discussion group. We covered some other really interesting subjects, including the concept once again of astral parallel selves, that we can have versions of us living on that side, carrying about their own lives. A very unusual concept also by one of our patrons, Barbara, whose partner crossed over and communicated with her, excuse me, and explained that there's a danger of coming down to the kind of earth plane frequency because it can actually remanifest certain diseases from her life here back into her astral body. Like, let's say you have chronic pain and then you cross over and you're in the higher plane of existence and everything is wonderful. And then if you put yourself back down into this vibration, you might experience that chronic pain again because you're aligned to this frequency in a body once again that's similar to here. So very unusual, very, very interesting concept. We're going to discuss that in this class, as well as a number of other really interesting subjects, which definitely worth listening to. So if you want to get involved in these private discussion groups, this is for patrons at the $30 and above level who kind of allow me to keep doing this work full time. And in exchange, we get to kind of be the, metaphysical educators. Like, the discussion groups are where a lot of the big concepts and big ideas get hashed out. Like, I depend on the patrons, and the patrons are kind of like helping me flesh these ideas out. And then together, we're able to sort of put these ideas out there, or also, be able to make videos like this one where we send more ideas out into the ether, so to speak. And so if you're serious about this stuff, you want to get involved, you can become a patron at the PayPal, afterlifetopics.com/university, or at the Patreon. The link is down in the down in the bottom left bar or in the description. That'll work as well. In addition, if nothing else, just subscribing to this channel really helps out. You may want to double check and make sure you're still subscribed, because sometimes YouTube has been unsubbing people from this place. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoy this discussion. Lots of really interesting stuff to talk about, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
How's it going? Has anybody had any interesting experiences, dreams, ADCs, and hopefully no NDEs that you guys want to talk about? If anyone's had anything they want to talk about, just toss it out there. Now's the time to figure it out.
Nope, nothing.
Nothing on Corey's end. Anyone else?
No, I mean, I haven't read it. Sonia Rinaldi printed out a report. Maybe, Barbara, I don't know if you've read it. Alpha something? I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But that looked interesting. I guess it's a book she wrote or something years ago.
Oh, okay. It was some kind of like ET related thing, if I recall. I didn't know she was into that stuff so long ago, but yeah, I don't know. I only have, I guess, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll add it to my queue of things to investigate, but who knows? Barbara, your hand was up.
Yes, I am still catching up. I was able to watch most of Tom Campbell's interview, and of course I watched your posts that you put up since our last meeting. And I was thinking of an experience I had not too long ago. Well, maybe it was a while ago, but anyway, I do have a place now where I can speak privately. I was in this experience, I was sleeping, and I felt myself go out of my body, and I saw my partner, Annie, and she walked over next to me, and she was giving me an explanation of why she couldn't be with me on this side now that she had transitioned or passed to the other side, that she couldn't just pop in here because she said it would require that she would have her illness back again and she wouldn't be the way she is there.
Oh, really? Wait, her illness would actually come back to her, like...
That's what she said.
To her, into her ethereal form if she were to align into this...
Yeah, if she found a way to align to this dimension.
That's wacky, isn't it? But it's...
But it was definitely, I mean, she was there and she was talking to me.
It's kind of, I mean, I can see that kind of thing as being plausible, but it's just weird, isn't it? Like, it is. You know?
And she said, here I'm free.
Right.
She said, I love being free to study and learn and meet people and debate with them and talk with them. But she said, I can't take the chance of that happening. So she said, and we have a version of you on this side.
So when you say come back, do you mean like manifest, like as in like an apparition almost, right?
Yeah, manifest here.
That's weird because when people manifest, sometimes they look all glowing and radiant and young, you know. So you would think that they're manifesting as how they are on that side, right? That there wouldn't be a risk of that. Yes. But
well, I'm just telling you what she said.
You know, it goes to show you what we don't know, huh?
You know, I know. And you know, she kept saying that the wonderful thing was she's free.
Yeah. It definitely shows what we don't know. We do know that there's weird circumstances involving like people's ailments or diseases or issues, like just energetically carrying over and having to be like eliminated, removed, whatever. And I think that, yeah, I don't know. It's weird to imagine, like, I don't know. I'm going to have to like think this one through at some point and consider the possibilities of like how, you know, what are the biological / physical correlations between, you know, reality, basically, you know, between spirit, the physical world, the biological world, that there is, and the mental world, you know, there is some kind of a link, I think, between all those things, of course, that nobody understands. They might understand, but, you know, we don't understand what that is. And that's one of the things that comes up in this field, is that if people think all that's so black and white and easy to figure out. It's like, oh well, this is the physical world and that's the non-physical world. But once you jump into this on a serious level of trying to like research these topics, then we find out that it's not black and white at all. And then that's sometimes the struggle in this area, is people want to pigeonhole it into a black and white thing, and then it's like you think you're making sense of it all, but like you're definitely not.
Well, what I wonder, Cyrus, is Barbara said that her partner said that a version of Barbara was on the astral, or whatever that dimension was. So I'm wondering, if we're here on this dimension and we are not aware of any other aspects of ourself, but her partner clearly stated that Barbara was over there. I've been in Sonia Rinaldi's picture, so I know that I must have a astral version or something over there. I wonder if there are, so when we pass away, we don't always know if we're going to go, like we talked about near-death experiences. Sometimes people are catapulted to these higher realms, and sometimes in out-of-body people are more in the lower astral realms, whatever you call it. I wonder if right now, as we're speaking, if we all have, I don't know, hundreds of versions of ourselves simultaneously living other experiences in other dimensions, so that when we pass away, like for instance, my daughter, I'm expecting the human Maddie that I knew from this last incarnation. So when I die, I wonder, maybe I won't necessarily get that same human Maddie, but a split off, a fractal of that human Maddie, that, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm worried you're listening to Tom Campbell too much.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any evidence of that. I don't think that people on the normal astral side are non-human. I think that they consider themselves human, as much as we do, if probably more so, because our human experience here is pretty limited, to,
But who is Barbara
mortality.
then? Then who's the Barbara astral? Like, if she's here talking to us now, then she must also be a somewhat real
Barbara
person
there.
too.
Barbara, who do you think you are astrally?
I think I have a presence of some kind in both places.
Because
Like a higher self, or
And now what Annie's told me is that she said that when she transitioned, it was like she went through an opening and into like a door. And she said, and she thought I was with her.
what?
Interesting.
Really?
And she was so surprised that I didn't remember that. So
Wow.
anyway, I don't know. If there's a version of me that is, I don't think it's just a body or just a picture. I think it would be some kind of a
Person.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So we may be, okay, you feel like yourself and your own thoughts because you're here and this is what you're relating to, this environment, but obviously you're in a different dimension doing the same thing, having different thoughts relating to that environment, and maybe we're also in other environments and different thoughts. So it's really strange to think about, who am I really? Because right now I can only understand me who's sitting here talking to you. The Sunday that somehow showed up in Sonia's thing, I have no connection, memory, experience. I have no knowledge of that. So is that me? If I don't have any connection, that's me?
Well, I mean, it's the philosophical thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago, or a couple sessions ago, about like if you have Siamese twins, or if you clone somebody, and then one clone has its own different set of experiences, can you still say that the clones are the same person?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I have something to say about that. Keep going.
Yeah, what's up?
I saw this story, and you might be too young to remember it. So okay, in the early 70s, they were taking triplets and twins away from their parents and splitting them up. And they told these people who adopted them, we are going to, they're part of a study of childhood development. And they didn't say they had triplets and twins. And this one guy went to the same college. And when he got there, people were calling him a different name. And he was like, what are you talking about? And this guy said, you have to meet this guy. And he drove all night. And he said he got there at 3 a.m, knocked on the door. And the guy was like, it was like looking at himself. Well, they're on the news. And a third guy is like, oh my gosh, that's me. So it was his third. There were triplets. And come to find out, they were a part of this study that was separating children. And they wanted to know how they turned out, like if it was all genes or if it was experiences. And they all had the same, and I remember something about it, but I didn't remember. I remember those being the boys being in a Madonna movie. But anyways, yeah, so they were exactly the same mannerisms, talked the same, acted the same, same everything. And yeah, it just reminded me of that because they had completely different parents, different they wanted to make sure these children were in different economical backgrounds, different neighborhoods, different type of growing up. And sure enough, they turned out all exactly the same.
Well, that could be an answer to the philosophical question then, so it's like basically there's a soul level thing that no matter what, unites people back into the same situation, right? So, or the same, persona or whatever you want to call it. Dee, I think it is your microphone that's messing up, so I might have to keep you on mute. Well, I think it's...
So Barbara, what else did your partner say to you?
Yeah.
She said that when she passed through this doorway, trap door, upstairs, attic door, whatever it was, that she was given a choice of going to a higher level, higher astral plane, or staying where she could be in contact with me until it was time for me to come there.
And did she stay on the lower to be in
Yes,
contact with
she's
you?
staying in where she could be in touch with me. And
That is
so that's
sweet.
probably why when I go there, I can sometimes meet with her. But I just feel like I'm in both dimensions.
Interesting.
Do you have any memory of that, of those other dimensions of that other Barbara?
It's where I go. It's where I go to have these experiences.
Well, what I mean, I guess, is when you and Cyrus and anyone else who projects, when you go and you have another counterpart, are you aware simultaneously of being both people at the same time? And have you ever seen your other self?
No, I'm not aware of it. I'm just relating what I've been told. I don't know how it works.
I mean, I guess I have like I can piece together a little bit of understanding about it because, I'm frequently aware of that side. And so what's probably is the same mechanics. And I assume it's the same like frequency of realm, because this is the concept that, if you're going up into higher realms, you can't make contact as easily, which, is plausible, I think. It's interesting that, you can have like two different doorways, basically. It can come down to something as simple as that. It's like, take door number B or take door number C, and it is interesting how things can be facilitated like that. But, so the door number B or, door number 2, whatever, if that's this kind of middle level, like catch-all afterlife dimension, which appears to still be a great place, that's, it's easier to keep in contact, with, when you're there, as opposed to some kind of higher, more, whatever adjective you want to use, sublime.
I think
level.
it's about energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it is about the energy or the frequency, but So anyway, so with my experiences, like the astral Cyrus has a lifestyle that's pretty consistent, and also people are aware that the astral Cyrus has a life here, and sometimes astral Cyrus mixes up his memories and gets confused a lot, because my parents are always dealing with me like this on that side, because it's like I'll appear there and I might appear like on my bed there, and like, like my mom might be aware that I'm coming in and out of consciousness between like me here and then my version there, and then in between, like I'll have dream interference, and so sometimes it's like my mom is talking to me like a child almost, because like I might be coming across as a bit incoherent. So this happened to me a couple nights ago. I was having these dreams, and then the dreams were coming in and out, and then I was also talking to my mom in the usual space, like sitting on a bed. And but I was mixing up the dreams and the real conversation with my mom. So I dreamed that my father, he was this extravagant guy here, and I dreamed that he built like this big luxurious like Roman style swimming pool, right? So you have like Greek statues, and you have like this big like over the top like fountains and all this stuff, which is totally the kind of thing my dad would just decide one day, like we need an ancient Greek swimming area. It's like the typical kind of thing he would do. So I had this dream about that, and then all the water was tinted like this like deep like blue color, like it was like blue lighting or something, like navy blue, right? And so I had this dream about my father, and he made this big crazy swimming pool. And then I'm talking to my mom, and then I realized the conversation with my mom is the real thing. And I'm asking my mom, hey, did my dad build here like a big like ancient Roman swimming pool? My mom was laughing. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but that does sound like the kind of thing he'd like to do. So the point being is that like that was just a dream that I was having. It had nothing to do with reality, but maybe I was like mixing my thoughts with his in some way in the dream state. But it wasn't actually what he was doing, it wasn't something that really happened on that side. But I was confusing my dreams and talking to my mom and trying to make sense of the information. It's like, where am I? Am I doing this? Am I talking to my mom? So, but it happens a lot where I'm there, and like my mind here, my mind there is getting mixed up and causing me to sound like somebody who's babbling and somebody who's doesn't know what reality he's on, right? But in between that, I can like extrapolate from those experiences, and like when the dream becomes an astral projection experience, like some of the dream is like real memories and real stuff that's happening, and then I'm astral projecting, so the dream goes away and I'm really there. So I'm able to like actually piece together and like acquire memories of my life on that side. And so like I know things about it, I know places I go, people I know, locations that I frequent, even places that I'm hanging out at specifically, like for leisure, like a kind of like this place in Mexico I'm sometimes at. Like I have like this. So I have like this general but very very minor level of memory and awareness of my astral Cyrus. So it's it won't be a giant shock to fully become the astral Cyrus someday, because I'm kind of already acquainted with that life. But even if it's only like a 2 or 3% of it. But I also know ultimately that astral Cyrus, part of his consciousness is split into my consciousness, which means that even his experience over there is not like the full experience, because it's like he's wrestling with awareness between the two places. And it seems to especially occur during sleep time here and possibly over there, because many astral experiences is actually me waking up in a different bed where I am, that Cyrus over there who's still going to sleep at night in some way, and like having dreams and having weird stuff that's like synchronizing with this life here, kind of like how I'm doing the same thing when I fall asleep here. So I know it's complicated, it's a lot to go over, but I'm wondering, does any of that make sense to anybody?
Yeah, I think with my weird experiences, like with remembering certain people or certain persons for all my life, but not being able to remember his name, or you know what I mean? That's kind of, I would say, probably part of, my side over there. But I was also going to say, you know how they say we only use so much of our brain and whatnot? Maybe it's like not that we're using just a little part of our brain, and maybe it isn't even our brain, but maybe it's just us here that is a little part of ourselves there. You know what I mean? So not that Sunday when you see your daughter again, she's going to be this different person. It's just going to be her plus some, plus some more experiences and more knowledge, because who knows, she's been there or whatever. But I mean, I think we all probably, I don't know, I've had experiences where I kind of remember, I guess. I mean, I think that's what it is. It has to be after that many years, remembering the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. So I think a
Well,
lot of, I'm sorry, go on, Sunday.
Well, I was, my hopeful thinking is that it'll still be her, but I don't know. Since I don't astral travel, I don't know all these things that you guys know, but I would hope that when you go back to wherever you came from, that some of the crud is scraped off. A little bit of the crud from this life is scraped off. And so that you have, maybe from your life review or something, you have a better perspective on things. And so you're still you, but it's like if you have, like me now, I'm still me, but I am quite a bit different than I was 2 years ago before my daughter died in a lot of ways. If somebody who I haven't seen in a long time met me now and reunited with me and were like, wow, you're so different. To them, I would appear different, I guess, because my outlook on everything seems different. But I really am still me. I haven't changed, but I have different perspectives now that I didn't have before. So I'm hopeful that
Well,
when we
look, I
die,
mean,
it's like that.
that's the nature of self-development. So a lot of people don't practice self-development, so they don't examine their lives as they live their lives. So these are people who die in their 80s, and they're the same arrogant person they were in their 20s, for example. And there's a lot of people like that out there. It's surprising. But I think that the common understanding is like, let's say you meet someone who's 20 years old and, they're an arrogant, jerk, or they have these actual ego issues. I'm not talking about ego in the way it's overused by the New Age community, but actual, like, as in they have a false persona, like the guy who's pretending to be somebody he's not, or just somebody who has a lot of like unworked stuff, or, clearly, whatever the case may be. The more somebody has those like issues or darknesses or problems, the more you kind of also feel a little bit uncomfortable around them. I think you all, kind of know what that feeling is like. So if you take the same person a few years later and they've had some kind of awakening and they have worked most of those issues out, we wouldn't see them as like, oh, like this is no longer the person we knew. I think we see them more as, oh, Bob sure has changed. He's so much more relaxed and cool to be around now, right? As opposed to when he was all self-conscious and bragging all the time, or whatever the issues may have been, right? So, when people change like that here, I don't think people are like, boy, I sure miss the old Bob. It's more like now Bob is being more like the way Bob is supposed to be, as opposed to, his fake, ego problems or his fake personality he had before. So, I mean, I think that's generally how self-development works. So I imagine it's the same kind of thing where, if somebody improves themselves, people, you don't get a feeling from them like they're no longer the person that you knew. And if you do get that feeling, it just means that maybe you haven't kind of improved yourself yet. So you're kind of, you kind of have a couple of grades at school that you have to catch up to yourself, and that happens in this life. Because if you do self-development type of work and you go up in life, like mentally, spiritually, sometimes even financially, and then you have people, who are behind you, sometimes they feel jealous, or they feel like, I can't relate to him anymore because now he's not a loser anymore like us, right? So sometimes that happens, which, that's a real thing that can happen. But I don't think like people's essence changes. And I think that also says a lot about our personalities, like on a spiritual level, because I think the essence is always there and it's always coming through. And some people, certain Eastern religious types of ideas, especially out of Hinduism, likes to say, though, there is no such thing as a personality. It's all an illusion. But we know from real spirituality, that's not the case. People have this kind of core essence that's always coming through. It's the kind of divine part of yourself. That's the thing that we miss. That's the thing that we want to meet and be with again. And so I don't know. Am I making sense? Anyone who wants to chime in here and get me off the microphone?
No, it makes sense. I think we all have different experiences, and like I said, I don't have a lot of experiences, so I don't have a lot to relate to. But looking and researching and reading your books and William Bowman's and Jurgen's, and then all the NDE stories and all the research I've done over the last almost 2 years has led me to believe there's a main theme throughout it all, which seems to unite everybody, that the whole point of everything, no matter what plane or whatever you're doing, is love. The bottom line is to grow, have experiences, and have it be a loving, productive thing. That's like the main theme. And then based on kind of who we are or what we want to manifest or our attachments or whatever, we might have a slightly different experience. That's why your experiences are a little different than Barbara's, which are a little different than Jurgen's, but still kind of generally the same.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Barbara. You disagreeing? Okay, what I was going to say is, like, one of my sort of personal revelations or ideas is about like infinite variety. So it's the idea that the concept of love can be the same, but there's like an infinite number of souls who are unique individuals. So the kind of love you experience is going to be different with each one. So that means there was an infinite variety. Same with concepts or even things you love. Like, the love you have for kittens is a unique love that only exists for kittens. And then the love you have for puppies is a unique love that only exists for puppies. You can only feel those like on an energy level, right? If it was anything but that, then life would be pretty monotonous. Like, imagine if the love you had for kittens was the same as the love you had for lasagna. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up, but it's then I would just say everything would feel very kind of like, things would kind of like become dull because you have getting the same energy feelings from different things, right? So I think we're built to have an infinite variety, and I think that's the only way that existence like operates infinitely. That's the only way that we can operate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So those are my thoughts about that. Anyone else have any thoughts about this?
Another thing that
Go ahead,
happens
Wendy.
to me is that if I talk to my parents or my grandmother or somebody like that, they're just always saying, and my son, saying how proud they are of me. But with Anne, she gives me direction of how I can, not specific things, not orders to do this or that, but direction of how to raise my consciousness.
Oh.
Yeah.
I get assignments.
Like what? Can you share some?
Well, yes, you know about the one with the painting class.
Mhm.
Yep.
The
Yep.
Yeah.
spirit painting, spirit art. And then there's some books that I'm supposed to be reading because she's met that person, the author over there, and we're going to have a discussion. So So I'm busy doing that. And things like that. It's just,
Yeah.
and suggestions for how to interact with people in a more advanced way. Always encouraging that.
I have the relationship is a little bit like that, like with my mother in reverse, in the sense that I'm often trying to give her advice or guidance, from this side to her side. So I mean this, and then she's described our relationship as like me being like a mentor to her. So it's like, the children raising the parents. That's how it's always been, unfortunately, with my parents. But depends on, how different roles come into play. But yeah, anyone else want to share anything there about any of that?
I had a question. Barbara, if you don't mind, how long ago did she pass? I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. How long what?
How long ago did she pass?
Oh, 2016.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know maybe if that had, who knows if that has something to do with, like if she comes here in spirit and you said her diseases come back, I wonder if, the longer you're there, the more they wouldn't, or who knows?
I don't know.
I was just thinking about that, but
my son has been here since 2007, and my daughter since 1964.
Oh goodness!
So I have a
long time.
wide spectrum.
Have you had any contact with like your was it your daughter or your son from 1963?
My daughter was 1964. Yes.
64. Have you had much contact with her?
Yes, she lets me know that she's very much interested in helping me with the readings I do, and with anything with any semblance of prayer or intercession or healing thoughts for anybody. And I see her as pure spirit. I see her as mostly light. I don't see her, although I've been told that she is tall and blonde and like her father and me, and has blue eyes. So that's but I mostly see her as just light.
Do you think maybe if someone's on a higher level, like your partner had the choice, that if we try to picture them, it may seem that way, even if they really do have like an appearance, like you said, tall and blonde. But sometimes if we try to put our minds to that level, like because we're not on that frequency, that it makes it seem like light, possibly.
Yes, I that's my impression.
Yeah, because a lot of people say like they, like the higher astral spectrum, if you're not on that frequency, you just look at it, it'll just look like blinding light. But if you're on that frequency, then you'll see a forest. But if you're not, then it's just light. So I sometimes wonder if that's the explanation behind a lot of these mysteries too.
Good thought. I see it as, feel it as very high energy.
Cool. Well, all right. So I guess I want to share something real quick. So, we had our last meeting, class, session, whatever you want to call it. And I put it up on YouTube, and then I shared it on the main group. And there was, it was about Sunday. You were talking about Tom Campbell's video. Then a bunch of people went and actually watched the video. And then there were more discussions on the YouTube comments. And then there were more discussions on the Facebook group about the session we had and the things that you had to say. Anyway, so Jürgen, the great Jürgen, actually, he piped. So he watched our class, and then he piped in as well, made a comment. Did you guys have a chance to see that?
Yeah, right before actually I got on, I commented a few times.
Yeah, I saw the comment.
Where is that? Is that on the Afterlife?
Yeah, it's on the main. It's on the main group. But I'll bring it up. So hold on. So let's see if this works. Okay, so this was Jürgen's response to the one from the previous session we had, and apologize to like Scott if you hadn't seen it yet. But I think Jürgen will just speak for itself. Basically, it's about
Tom Campbell making certain presumptions, I suppose, through his theories, and Jurgen having a kind of a pithy response to it. So here's what Jurgen says. And Jurgen, by the way, is friends with Tom Campbell in real life. Jurgen says, so this is in response to the silver cord conversation, right? So we were talking about the silver cord. I brought it up as evidence that, out-of-body elements are not just stuff, belief systems coming through, because there's objective things that can happen. And then Sunday, you mentioned that Tom Campbell brought up the silver cord, again, saying that it's just a belief system manifestation. So anyway, so this was Jurgen's response to that. Jurgen says, well, I've had plenty of silver cord experiences, especially in the early days. In the 70s, I checked it out, touched it, played around with it, had it touched by others, felt the tingle, and had it confirmed by astral entities who were not part of my, quote, single-player simulation, which Tom Campbell apparently thinks that most out-of-body experiences are single-player simulation games. My suspicion is that Tom rather simplifies reality to provide a better fit for his big toe theory of everything. I think the proper scientific approach should be as follows. Why is the silver cord seen by some and not by others? Why is the silver cord seen sometimes but not other times by the same person? Just posing these questions will lead us along different paths in our investigation. Instead, Tom seems to say, "This is my theory. How can I make the cord fit best into my pre-existing theory?" I think there is a lot more work to be done. To me, it is observation first, data collection first, statistical data first, consensus reporting first, but then theory right at the end. Ideally, no theory at all. In my experience, this is what I found. This is a really great quote. Theories are just thought forms drifting quickly asunder in the wind of reality. This is one of those things I'm like, oh, I have to copy and paste this and put it someplace. In other words, theories have little permanence, akin to puffs of smoke. Sorry, Tom. So I thought that was pretty. I thought that was pretty interesting. Anyone have any thoughts about that?
Well, I kind of commented that, he even, like somebody said, he even states it's his theory. And I said, well, theories are not scientific. You can't say, oh, this is data.
Well, he shouldn't even call it a theory, but a hypothesis. There's a difference between a theory and a hypothesis, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not data, because you collect maybe data in our world because it fits into our box of physics and whatever, but we have no idea about what fits into that box, none at all. So it's not data. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, but I don't know. My comment said something like, it's just his thought about it, and that's it. Plain and simple. And unfortunately, it's upsetting to a lot of people, because it's not scientific. It's not, it's not even relevant, really, I guess.
It's the way he presents it. He's so matter of fact about it. He's like, this is the reality. This is the truth, instead of, well, from me being a physicist and my own interpretation of things, this is how I interpret it. Because on that video's website, I commented, well, perhaps because you're a physicist, you think differently. Exactly. And so you're going into it with a different reality frame. And so you have certain of your own expectations that maybe you are manifesting or not allowing to be manifested or whatever, just like I might have my own set of beliefs. Or so what makes your belief the correct one?
Exactly.
You may be carrying your own baggage like the rest of us.
And look at Jurgen, who's had multiple countless experiences. And he has been many different places, right? And he still has many questions. He doesn't say this is the way it is. Like even with this silver cord thing, he said, you know, I mean, this is my theory, but really a theory is just a thought, you know? So he has questions, and he's had more experiences than anyone of us or anyone else I know. So how can somebody that hasn't say this is the way it is, you know, like it's not, you know. And with his scientific brain, he's not going to look at it the way other people are going to look at it, because I don't think you can put the afterlife into some scientific box. You just can't. There's too much unknowns. I don't think it's supposed to be scientific. I don't think we're supposed to know a lot of things or understand them, and it's impossible to do.
Like, here's one question. Like, is it possible to scientifically study the mind? Because, I mean, of course, we call that psychology, or, you know, or applying that as psychiatry. But can you really do it? Is it actually possible? Like, if there's mentally created worlds that are just within each of us to an extent, like, can you, quote, use the scientific method to test something that is not even in this reality, or is a part of somebody else's reality, even going by Tom's own like perspectives? Like, you can't actually do that. And yeah, so Barbara, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, I did.
What's up?
Tom Campbell said that the data stream is equal to virtual reality. And so to have an out-of-body experience, you let go of one data stream and you accept another. You look at the data and you interpret it, and that becomes your reality, and that's colored by your belief system. So it's all very much drawn out in a diagram.
Yeah, it's just that I actually agree. Like, I sometimes use the data stream analogies too, because it does make a lot of sense. It also makes sense thinking about the brain as a computer. The only way I've been able to make sense of my experiences sometimes is to think of it as data coming in from different directions. Like Sunday mentioned about there's hundreds of us in different realms. It could be the case. But I think where there's also confusion is thinking of this reality as being somehow different, or in the other realities being dreamlike and subjective. I think that, like, everyone needs to stop, in a Tom Campbell too, and consider like the quote astral plane of existence is literally like this reality. So when I've had really good astral projection experiences, you know, imagine like being on a different bed. You wake up, you get out of the bed, you stand there and you look around a room you're in, and you open a dresser and go through clothes. Like, wow, are these my clothes? I bought these in this different world. And you find out, like, well, this is actually like, I'm on the astral plane, and it's just like back on Earth. You know, there's my computer over there, and, you know, there's a window, and I can look outside. I can step outside and talk to people. You know, it's basically it's not different than this world is. But yeah, I feel like when we listen to some of these authors, or, you know, Tom Campbell too, we get the feeling like it's all this big helter-skelter lucid dream experience where it's just like this constant trip and nothing is tangible. It's not like there's no objective, like, solid place. It's all like, you know, virtual reality. And what is it like? What does he say? Like, what was the terminology that he used? Single player simulation experience. You know, like we think it's all this kind of stuff, but, you know, my experience when I've had the really good astral projection trips is that I'll grab people and be like, is this a simulation? Like, I'll be like wild-eyed, crazy, asking people on that side questions. And they're like, get away from me, you're a weirdo. I mean, just like they would here, you know, and that's, you know, and so if you go to that other side with thinking of it that way and treating people like it's that way, it's going to be the same as doing that here, you know. And you know, probably
That's so interesting.
You know, and I think one of the worst things is if you have an astral trip and you think it's a simulation and you start like raising hell, like, because you think it's a lucid dream or it's not real people around you. Well, I got some bad news. It may really be people. So if you think, oh, I'm going to carry out all my weird, like,
violent fantasies. I'm going to go up and like start punching somebody on the sidewalk. Well, you might really be on the astral spectrum. You're just punching somebody because you're like you're being a freak. You're being a weirdo, and you just punched the guy because you thought it wasn't real. And there's people doing that, I think, because they listen to, well, frankly, Tom Campbell, but also a lot of other like lucid dream YouTube channels and places that are saying that are denying the existence of an objective astral world and saying it's always subjective, nothing is real. So you get people dreaming from this side, appearing on that side, and running around and being weird. Yeah.
I apologize if when I brought the subject up last week, I hope I conveyed it reasonably accurate enough. It's really hard when you're listening to a podcast to get all the points. So hopefully I was somewhat reasonable with what I was saying on it.
Yeah, you were. I think everyone got the point of what Tom said, and I think it all matched up to what he was saying in the on the YouTube channel.
For some reason I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Testing. Can anybody
hear you.
Can anybody else
hear
hear?
you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think it's just on Sunday's side.
Yeah,
Sunday,
I can hear you too.
Sunday, I think maybe your speaker is not working. Well, anyway, otherwise, yeah, Sunday.
You've had it.
Keely,
You've
go.
had experience. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm always interrupting. You've had experiences though where you have been able, like you've got a name, right? And you've came back and been able to find that person, right? That had passed.
Yeah, I've done that multiple times.
Yeah. And I just remember a story about a bartender, and
That was the first time I did that.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously it isn't a one person experience in any way. It's not, I mean, you wouldn't have gone over and imagined this guy and just happened to get a name and a place and a whatever, right? I mean, that would be impossible.
I will tell you, it would have been a one-person experience if it was a lucid dream. It goes back to an article I wrote on the Afterlife topic site. It is Tom Campbell confusing lucid dreams and astral projection, in which case a lot of Tom Campbell fans emailed me like you're pathetic and childish and far below the intelligence of Campbell, and you don't even deserve to be able to be writing in this field, and all kinds of interesting things that I got emailed in response to that article. But it still stands that if you're lucid dreaming, you're having a single player experience. One of the biggest ways to determine a lucid dream is that it has a narrative. It's like your mind becomes a storyteller, and it creates like a narrative that it explores for some particular reason. I had a dream last night that I was saving a cow. I don't know what the metaphor is about this, but there was a cow stranded in the desert. So I had to take a train up to find where we left the cow, so we could get the cow and take the cow back. But of course, the cow could talk.
I love it.
So anyway, so that was, so that was just a dream. And in and out of the dream, I was talking to my mom, and I realized, just like the experience before, I was once again visiting with my mom. So I visited with her twice this week. And then we ended up having a long conversation about other stuff. And at one point, I was talking to her about her sister, my aunt, who just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and asking if she will get in touch with her family members. She doesn't seem to do it. She seems to same as here, stays estranged from her family. But she was telling me things about my aunt, which she said, like, yeah, your Aunt Patty, she used to get in trouble all the time with these people who would extort her for like money or, things like that. So she really became a recluse because of that. She stopped, she stay home a lot because of things like this. And that's probably why she was living alone before she died. Like, my mom was saying all this stuff to me, but that was in between dreaming about a cow that had to be saved that could talk, right? So which is the real experience, right? Was it rescuing the cow that could talk in the desert, or is it my mom talking about her sister who passed away, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Tom Campbell says that you have to learn that it's all a data stream when you're having an out-of-body experience, and you have to learn to set one down and pick up another. data stream.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn to let go of one data stream, you can't pick up the other. And that's what puts you into an out-of-body experiences. You can have the experience as long as you pick up another data stream.
Yeah, I mean, okay, a dream is a data stream. Okay, so if you're dreaming about the talking cow or whatever it is, that's
Yeah,
a
I was
data
trying to
stream.
apply it.
I think it's like being it's your consciousness and other people's consciousness and your like higher self and your creative mind, and it's mixing up a story and it's working things out and whatever. That's a data stream. But then the astral you that's on the other side and having an autonomous life is also a data stream. And to astral project, you have to be able to get out of the dream data stream and get into the astral projection, astral existence data stream. And when those data streams cross together, you get these what I call astral dreams, where you're still dreaming, and a lot of it's like surrealistic imagery or like kind of nonsense, but mixed in is like it's like overlaid on top of like what real stuff that might be happening. So that when you then astral project, the surrealistic stuff and the weird stuff actually goes away, and then you're left with a clear picture of what's going on in an objective astral environment. And then there may be other data streams from other places as well. When we talk about like parallel realities or even parallel astral realities, I have had a little bit of experience with that, but it's really weird. But I think it exists. But I think it's weird even for people living on the astral plane, knowing like Sunday said at the beginning of all this, what if there's hundreds of us in different realities? I think there really could be, but even when once we're aware on the astral spectrum, like this is what people are going to school for on the other side to figure out. This is why people are meditating and having their own types version of projection experiences in the quote afterlife, so that they can access these other realities that they may be coexisting in. So it's not something that is it's not easy to unlock those doors. So I get where Tom Campbell's coming from. I agree with the data stream stuff, but maybe I don't agree with how he seems to maybe misinterpret the quote normal astral plane, right? Most of the other OBE authors also are, like Bullman, for example, is perfectly aware of an objective, we call it astral, whatever you want to call it, like earth sphere that people go into, right? And so Tom is the one kind of getting with all the wonky realities of simulation type of stuff, which is getting, and it's popular these days, especially with stoners who watch Rick and Morty. They're really into the simulation theory stuff. But it's just I don't like Jürgen says. I mean, I care about factual, objective stuff. I don't know to what extent that's true or not.
Well, I think the difficult part is, for me, is when Tom says, okay, he's admitted to being into these other dimensions that have, like the one dimension he was talking about that was like horrible and horrifying stuff. And then he's been to nicer dimensions too. And he says those are real realities with multiple players like our Earth and our stuff here. But then he says that most astral experiences are single player. But that's what I wrote on his thing is, well, how do you know? How can you tell the difference? And then someone wrote back saying, well, the non-players or whatever, just the fill-in players from the larger consciousness system, they're like kind of dumb. They don't answer really any questions and they don't really say much of anything. Well, everything that you've told me in your books and Jürgen's in his books and even William Bullman, all these, and then Barbara with her partner and their children, they're actually saying things. They're not just a mindless blah, 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 not saying anything. So that's the part that is hardest for me when he makes the conclusion that when you die, it's not your real loved one. They're just some mindless, nothing that the consciousness system makes up for your own benefit. It seems very suspicious that a loving, I don't know, creator, whatever you want to call it, would trick us constantly for our own benefit.
Here's something that he's really, let me just jump in. It's just like very clear confusion is what it is. Because he said a higher consciousness system, you can identify the kind of non-player characters because they're kind of dumb because of the higher consciousness system just spits them out. Okay. It's not the higher consciousness system that's spitting these characters out. It's your higher consciousness system. It's your higher self when you're
Exactly.
when you're lucid dreaming. So when you're lucid dreaming, okay, that talking cow is not a real talking cow. It was a thing that my higher self made as a joke. You know, so it's like I'm going to make this funny story where Cyrus has to rescue a cow. But it's dumb because the extent of its identity is just depends on my own thoughts. So in a lucid dream, you cannot acquire objective information. You can't like hear somebody speaking in Spanish and be like, oh, I never heard that word before, and then you look it up and then you realize, see, it's a real word because it can only use what's already in your own memory bank because it's actually you creating all of those things. If you're astral projecting, somebody can say something that, you know, a word in a language you don't know, and you look it up and that you'll get the definition because you're getting access to other people who are objective and real, like here, right? So with, yeah, and if you were encountering an entity being created by the higher consciousness system, then it would also be objective and that wouldn't be dumb at all, because then that would mean like it's like a source consciousness is creating something, you know, then it wouldn't be stupid at all. It would only make sense that something would be mindless and kind of dumb is if your own limited mind is creating it. I don't even think it's fully your higher self, because your higher self would at least have access to things that your lower self might not have. But when you're lucid dreaming, it's like literally the mind you have now that's creating the characters. So Tom and friends, they're confusing lucid dreams with astral projection states. It's as simple as that. Anyone have any thoughts?
No, I agree. His book frustrated me. I couldn't even get halfway through it. No. I'm surprised that you could read it all Sunday, and I don't know. I just think it's upsetting.
Well, I just try. I'm extremely, extremely skeptical on everything, so I try my best to read from all views, all different sorts of things, even things that seem so beyond bizarre to me, like the Far Sight video that Cyrus made about this Earth being a trap and all of that. Some things like those concepts that initially just are like too bizarre, too weird, too freaky. And then I think, okay, we are on this rock in an unlimited universe, hurling through space at such incredible speed. That's pretty freaking incredible. So what is not incredible? So I just think I have to keep an open mind and just investigate and see what fits in with my experience.
Yeah, that's a good attitude, Sunday. I mean, it's, I guess I feel myself reflected in that a little bit as well, because when I hear something that sort of contradicts or challenges things I've experienced and feel to be true, I have this compulsion to then investigate or read about it or figure it out. I can't just lay down on it. I have to be like, no, I'm not going to be able to fall asleep until I figure that out and then research it and then make up a conclusion to figure out what's really going on or find a middle ground or something like that, right? So, you know, I mean, initially that's why I was too caught up in like the skeptic versus believer war, because I was still a little bit of a fence sitter myself, and so I was always paying attention to like, oh no, but Michael Shermer thinks, you know, like I was actually worried about that kind of stuff like once upon a time, until I finally just completely got over that, and I had to have my own experiences, and then I just shifted out of that completely, and then I'm on to different things, right? But anyway, yeah, I guess I totally get where you're coming from. It is now past the hour, so I guess we'll wrap up soon. Does anyone here have any last thoughts about any of the stuff that we talked about tonight?
Well, thanks for your inputs, everybody, and I hope we didn't scare the new guy away.
No, I'm still here.
Good, good. I was thinking you might be out of here.
No, it's good. It's good listening to everything. I'm just settling in at the moment, but no, it's also interesting. It's fantastic.
What time is it in UK?
It's now just gone 7 p.m.
Oh, perfect. It's that's a nice time. It's now 2 a.m. here in Philippines.
Oh
Is
my
it?
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's yeah, and yeah, but I have to think I have to crash soon. Somebody today said I have Korean hair. It's become Korean hair because I can't get my hair cut yet, but I think they're going to open the barber shops up like tomorrow.
Ooh,
But
that'd be nice.
yeah, also, it's probably my camera is super low resolution, so I look like a speck with like Korean hair.
You're fine. You feeling good?
I have the classic late stage COVID symptoms where every day I get either I get pain in my kidney, I get pain in my fingertips, pain in my toes, I get pain in my chest, I get these weird tingly headaches that have like heat.
Wow.
I get all these bizarre symptoms that happens to a lot of people like long after they get over the sickness. And that's me right now still, and every day I don't know what I just spin the wheel, like what weird symptom am I going to have today. And today it was just some pain and tingly feelings in my fingers. So
Do you still have
interesting.
shortness of breath?
what's that? Yeah, and that can be one of the symptoms. And so it happened like a week ago. Like I was taking a nap and I woke up and found myself like trying to catch my breath. And that sucked. And I took prednisone, the steroid, and that seems to, I think it helps when that happens. So
yeah, it does. Opens things up.
So it just depends on where the virus attacks. So it just hangs out in your body and then just makes failed attempts at attacking like different organ systems. It's like I'm gonna try to attack his heart today, and then you get like a weird little feeling here. That's all that happens. So I'm gonna attack his brain, and you get like a little bit of a weird tingly feeling. Like that's basically what it does. And
Did they put you on prednisone? Sorry.
No, it's Philippines, so it's just anything goes. I just go to the pharmacy and like, hey, you're gonna have some prednisone,
Yeah.
And,
usually when you take it, make sure to taper off of it, because if you don't, your own adrenal glands can stop working and then you have really weird symptoms. But prednisone in itself causes weird symptoms.
Yeah, I know it does. I know. I looked it up. I'll just take one if I get the shortness of breath because I don't want to risk it. So I get, so I'm treating it like asthma. So I just, so I'll pop one. But I've only had to do it like twice now anyway. So it's fortunately not the most common symptom, but yeah, I don't even, it's another reason. Like we don't even know yet if people like me who have the long tail sickness, like we don't even know if we're still contagious or not. Nobody really knows anything. And there's one reason I haven't gone on a flight back home, because like my roommate landlady in LA, she has a lot of pre-existing conditions. I don't want to expose her. My roommate in Arizona back in Tucson, like I don't want to expose him. So I don't even, so I've just, I don't even know if I'll ever get out of here, because I don't think they're going to open up flights again. And I don't think they're going to open up international flights maybe ever at this point. So
that's crazy.
We'll see.
Crazy. Hey, Cyrus, have you seen Stephen Greer's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind?
I did.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I liked it. I've come to, I think Greer might be wrong about some things, but I've come to really like him and what he's doing, and his idea of, don't just make contact with beings, higher dimensional beings, and don't be shy, and that's kind of the way forward. And there's so much muck and weirdness and danger and insanity in the UFO world, and that just seems like the best strategy, and I like the story, but the guy whose hearing was fixed,
that was
really
fascinating. Great. Yeah, that was it. And that the ships, how they would go interdimensional, they would see them, but then they would go to another dimension. Kind of reminded me a little bit what people were talking about.
And y'all have heard me talk about the UFO that we saw in near where you are, Barbara, in Tucson, right?
Right.
Yes.
I've told you guys about
Yeah.
that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
My
big.
God.
There's like a
I'm
big.
not sure if I knew.
It was like this. It was like basically watching like a golden pyramid, like float in from outer space, and that
amazing.
was an eye opener. That probably is what set me on a course of being weird and into all this stuff, because I saw that when I was 11 years old, and then I had to process all that as a kid and be like, okay, we're not alone in the universe. Obviously the government's in on it because they're flying out to meet the thing, and black helicopters and black SUVs, flying up and down the. Well, actually, it was Silver Bell Road. Barbara, it's actually a really big road that goes all the way through Tucson and then all the way up to the mountains. It's crazy, and that was, I think, a very that helped almost set me on a path, I think. So I'm very grateful for that experience. But yeah, I mean, so I do have that lingering sideline interest in the UFO stuff, and I do like what Stephen Greer is doing, and I definitely think you can make contact like that. And so I'm curious. I want to explore that more in the future. But anyway, okay, well, I guess I am going to go to bed. So I'll leave the room open if anybody wants to chat amongst each other. Thank you, Scott, for coming out, and thanks everybody else.
Thank you.